Hello, good evening. Usually I record my videos in Portuguese, and my American friends are like, "What are you doing? What are you talking about? Can you talk to us?" So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give a try on this introduction to the Paul's letter to Titus. This letter is important because it talks about a society and how the Christian life can influence the society around us. Um, this letter is written 30 years after Jesus' death and resurrection. So try to picture on your mind how the world was in 1988, 30 years ago. And try to remember how many things happened in the last 30 years. So that's pretty much, it's a different society. That's pretty much what happened with Jesus. Jesus' death and resurrection happened, but now it's 30 years later. And Paul is writing this letter to Titus in Crete, and in Crete. And he's there on this island, on this Greek island, far away from Jerusalem, living in a different environment. So, who is Titus? Titus is a Gentile. That's interesting because he's not a Jewish. What brings Titus a lot of problems that you can see on the other letters of Paul when Paul is talking about Titus, that some people are like, this dude, Gentile, how can he be how can he even be a leader in the church? So Paul writes the letter to this guy. And if you look at the map, you're going to see that you have Greece here, you have Asia, Ephesus, and you have Athena here. And then you have the island here below where Paul thinks that is a nice idea to have, a church there, because since there's so many ships going through that island, that would be a nice spot to have the gospel and a strong church base there. So Paul himself goes to this island, and he brings Titus with him. After founding the church, he just gets these, he goes in his missionary trip and leaves Titus there as the supervisor or the leader of this church. Now, where is this church? Well, it's in this town. I don't know how to say that in English. Crete, maybe? Chris? Crete. And this this island is known for being immoral, for having a bad reputation about what they are. Such bad reputation that Paul will quote one of their poets, Epimenides, and Paul says, "The Cretans are liars from the womb, barking dogs, lazy bellies." That's a beautiful poem. Well, can you think about someone write a poem like that about you? That would not be nice. Now, this is Epimenides, one Cretan poet, writing about his people. That's how he labels his own people. So it's among these people that Titus is living. Is these people that Paul is inviting Titus to, present the gospel, the message of the gospel. So I'm going to read for you, with my amazing English and accent, the first 4 verses of this letter from Paul to Titus. Okay, so it says, "I, Paul, am God's slave and Christ's agent for promoting the faith among God's chosen people, getting out the accurate word on God and how to respond rightly to it. My aim is to raise hopes by pointing the way to life without end. This is the life God promised long ago, and He does not break His promise. And then, when the time was ripe, He went public with His truth. I've been entrusted to proclaim this message by order of our Savior God Himself." It's interesting what Paul is saying here, because Paul, as a first century Jew, he has on his mind this idea of the present age and the age to come. So they are split in two different, they are waiting for something to happen. They are like, we would love to be that country again. We would love to be that Israel that God promised long ago, but we can't be because we live in this world. We are waiting for the Messiah. We are waiting for this age to come so we can be these people. Now, Paul has this idea of present age and age to come very well established in his mind. You can see that when he writes his other letters. However, the difference between Paul and the Jews of his time is that he believes that age to come has broken into this age through Jesus. So Jesus is this Back to the Future guy where he brings the future into the present, the then to the now. That's the beauty of what Paul is saying, that you don't need to wait that much anymore. And Paul goes on saying that this is the life God promised long ago, and he does not break promises. Now, what a beautiful thing is when Paul says that God is not a liar. I know with our Christian mind, we kind of have this truth, built in us. However, if you look to Paul's right to the Greeks, and the Greeks, they have those gods. You know the gods. You have seen the Hollywood movies where they are, gods that they are sexual abusers. They have bad faith. Some of them are even evil. Those are the gods that the Greeks are used to. They don't know which God to serve. They don't know how God will behave. They don't know what to do. They don't even know which sacrifice to offer and to which God. It's complicated. That's the people that Paul is writing to, and the people which Titus is presenting the message. So when presenting the message, they say God does not break his promise. He fulfilled his promise. The promise that come from long ago, for thousands and thousands of years, for the promise that were given to the Jews, now they are realized in Jesus. The time is here. The time is not then anymore. The time is here. And it's beautiful because Paul will go on saying that my aim is to raise hopes by pointing the way to life without end. And before he says, I want to preach God's chosen people, getting out the accurate word in God and how to respond rightly to it. So this letter is important nowadays, the same way it was important by the time of Titus. On the time of Titus, Paul would have these people with moral problems. They don't know what God wants. They don't know. They're like, what really God wants? Who is God? Each one of the gods is the God in each place today. And we live in a time where this is as complicated to us as it was for them. You have different versions of Jesus, you have different gods, you have different religions, and people even say there are different truths out there. So now what do you do with that? And this is why Peter is writing this letter. Paul is writing this letter to Titus. He's writing saying, hey, I'm here writing this letter because I was commissioned by God to explain how to respond rightly to the message of Christ. And this is my invitation to you for the next few days. I'm gonna start a series on Titus, and we're gonna read Titus together. I would like to invite your friend, invite your family, invite your wife, I don't know who, just brew a nice coffee or get a nice and cold beer and sit down with Titus and Paul. It takes no more than 10 minutes for you to read the entire letter. Read it. And try to see how does it talk to you today now that you have all this information, who the letter is being written to, who's reading it, and why and where Titus is. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of nice things here that can help us to understand how to respond rightly to the message of Jesus in USA 2018. God bless you. I see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.